Oh, precious people, let me ask you something that almost everyone struggles with but hardly talks about. What is the one time in your day when you feel the most desperate, the most vulnerable, yet the most hopeful? Think carefully. I want you to write your answer boldly in the comment section below. Don't rush it, really reflect. This question holds the key to a breakthrough that most people miss out on. Now here's the thing. There is a secret power hidden in that hour, a spiritual weapon so powerful it can change your life forever. But why is it that 98% of people never tap into this? Why do so many pray and yet see no breakthrough? What are they missing? If you want to unlock the answer, stay with me. I'm about to reveal what praying at 1 a.m. can do for your destiny and how you can unlock its power with precision and authority. Before we go deeper, if you are serious about breakthrough and transformation, I want you to subscribe and join this community of warriors and overcomers, because this journey is not just about prayer, it's about power, purpose, and the manifestation of God's promises in your life. Why 1 a.m.? Understanding the spiritual significance of the witching hour, there is a moment in the night, often called the witching hour, when many believe the forces of darkness are at their strongest. This hour, around 1 a.m., is shrouded in mystery and fear in many cultures. But what if I told you that this hour, feared by many, holds the greatest spiritual opportunity for breakthrough and divine intervention? That this is the secret time when prayer can have supernatural impact. You see, the darkness of the night is not just physical. It is symbolic of the spiritual battles that rage unseen. It is a time when the enemy believes he has advantage because the world sleeps. But what the enemy doesn't know is that this hour is actually a window of opportunity for those who understand the spiritual realm. This is the time when heaven's gates swing open wide, when the atmosphere is charged with divine possibilities, and when prayers rise like incense before the throne of God. Let's begin with Scripture. The Bible does not specifically say pray at 1 a.m., but it speaks volumes about the power of midnight prayers and the night watches. Psalm 119:62 declares, "At midnight I will rise to give thanks unto thee because of thy righteous judgments." This tells us that rising at the darkest hours to engage in worship and prayer was already a spiritual discipline in ancient times. Midnight was not a time to fear, but a time to expect God's intervention. The New Testament gives us even more powerful insight. Jesus, the Son of God himself, often sought solitude during the early hours before dawn to pray. Mark 1:35 tells us, "In the morning, rising up a great while before day, he went out and departed into a solitary place, and there prayed." What is remarkable here is that Jesus understood the power of early hours, the time when human strength is low, but spiritual power can be renewed. If Jesus needed this hour for connection and breakthrough, how much more do we need it? But why 1 a.m. specifically? In many spiritual teachings, 1 a.m. is considered the beginning of the witching hour, a time when spiritual forces can become restless. For the believer, this is not a time to cower, but a time to rise and take authority. The veil between heaven and earth is thinner during the night, meaning prayers offered then can travel faster, penetrate deeper, and bring results quicker. Imagine the spiritual atmosphere at 1 a.m. The noise and distractions of the day have disappeared. Your phone is silent, your home is still, and the world outside sleeps. Your mind is clear of daily clutter, and your spirit is free to focus solely on God. This is a sacred battlefield where the forces of darkness often seek to steal your peace and progress, but also a place where you can wage war with prayer and win. There is a practical reason, too, that makes this hour so powerful. During the day, your time is often filled with distractions, work demands, social interactions, media noise, and responsibilities. These can cloud your mind and make it difficult to pray with full concentration and faith. But at 1 a.m., distractions vanish. The silence envelops you, allowing you to engage in prayer with full intensity. History and testimonies of spiritual warriors affirm the power of this hour. For example, there was a man who owned a small farm but was struggling to provide for his family. He decided to start praying every night at 1 a.m., asking God for provision and breakthrough. His neighbors mocked him, saying, "What are you doing up at this hour praying when you should be resting?" But this man persisted. After 3 months of disciplined 1 a.m. prayers, he began to experience sudden, unexplainable financial blessings. Unexpected buyers came for his produce, debts were paid off, and peace filled his household. His story is a living testimony of the power hidden in that hour. But breakthrough at 1 a.m. does not happen by chance. It happens because of discipline and understanding the spiritual laws governing that hour. Many fail because they do not realize that prayer at this hour is warfare. It's a battle against spiritual forces assigned to keep you stagnant, fearful, and defeated. The enemy prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. But the faithful who rise at 1 a.m. become lion tamers, those who take authority over darkness with prayer. The Apostle Paul talks about spiritual warfare in Ephesians 6, urging believers to put on the full armor of God to stand firm. The 1 a.m. prayer warrior wears this armor every night. When the world is asleep, these warriors are alert, praying, declaring, and taking their place in the spiritual realm. Let me ask you a question. Are you willing to be that person who stands when others sleep? Are you ready to wage war in the quietest hour and claim your breakthrough? One more reason this hour is so powerful is because it requires sacrifice. Sacrifice is the currency of breakthrough. What you are willing to give up is often what you receive. Sacrificing sleep, comfort, and ease for prayer at 1 a.m. shows God your seriousness and hunger, and God honors hunger. He rewards those who seek him early and diligently. Science even supports this idea in a way. Our bodies have natural circadian rhythms that impact our mental, emotional, and spiritual state. The early morning hours are when our brains can enter deep meditative states more easily and when our nervous system is calmer. This makes it an ideal time for focused prayer and spiritual connection. In spiritual communities around the world, the practice of midnight prayer is celebrated as a time when miracles happen. Pastors, intercessors, and ordinary believers have testified to breakthrough and deliverance received during this time. Some have seen healing after years of illness, financial miracles, restored relationships, and divine direction, all triggered by disciplined prayer in the early morning hours. If you want your breakthrough, you must embrace this principle. You must no longer fear the darkness, but see it as your opportunity. You must rise in faith, take your place on the battlefield at 1 a.m. and pray with authority, knowing that this hour is a spiritual portal to your destiny. In closing this first point, remember that the witching hour is not a time of weakness. It is a time of strength. It is not a time to hide in fear, but to rise in power. The enemy may try to use the darkness to discourage you, but God uses it to encourage you. Your breakthrough is hidden in that hour. The choice is yours. Will you sleep through your destiny or rise and claim it at 1 a.m.? Preparing your heart and mind for the 1 a.m. breakthrough prayer. When we talk about praying at 1 a.m. for breakthrough, the conversation often stops at the action of praying itself. But the reality is this: prayer is far more than just uttering words in the dark. True, effective prayer begins long before your knees touch the floor or your eyes close in the quiet of the night. It starts within in your heart and mind, the very core of who you are. Why is this preparation so important? Because prayer is a spiritual communication that requires the right heart attitude and mental clarity. It's like tuning a radio to the exact frequency before you can receive the message clearly. If your heart is tangled in unforgiveness, bitterness, or distraction, your prayers get muffled or even blocked. If your mind is restless, filled with worry or doubt, your prayers lose power. That's why preparation is a vital key to unlock the break through you seek at 1 a.m. Let me be clear, this is not about religious ritual or simply doing what sounds right. This is about positioning yourself in a place where heaven can respond to your prayers. Jesus said in Matthew 6:6, "But when you pray, go into your room, close the door and pray to your Father who is unseen." Notice the emphasis on focus and intimacy. The first step to preparing for your 1 a.m. prayer is to create an environment not just physically, but spiritually where God can meet you. The first preparation is cleansing your heart. The Bible tells us in Psalm 66:18, "If I regard iniquity in my heart, the Lord will not hear me." Iniquity here means sin, guilt, resentment, all those things that build walls between you and God. Before you approach the throne of grace at 1 a.m., you must ask yourself honestly, is there any bitterness or unforgiveness I am holding on to? Is there any sin or negative pattern I have allowed to take root? Think about how heavy it feels to carry grudges or guilt during the day. Now imagine trying to speak to God with that burden still clinging to your soul. It won't work. You have to let go, forgive those who hurt you, ask God to cleanse you, and commit to living in obedience and humility. That is the spiritual cleansing that prepares your heart to receive. Next, you must prepare your mind. One of the greatest enemies of prayer is a distracted mind. Our world is filled with distractions, social media, notifications, endless worries, thoughts about work or family. How many times have you tried to pray and found yourself mentally elsewhere? To pray effectively at 1 a.m., you need to discipline your mind to focus solely on God. How do you do this? Start by quieting your thoughts. Practice breathing deeply and intentionally. Use scripture or worship songs to center your mind. The Psalms are excellent for this purpose. Repeat verses like "Be still and know that I am God," Psalm 46:10, as a way to shut out noise and invite God's presence. Here's a practical example. I once met a woman who struggled to pray because her mind raced with anxious thoughts about her sick child. She felt powerless and overwhelmed. But when she began preparing her mind with deep breaths, worship music, and meditating on God's promises before her 1 a.m. prayers, she found peace. Her prayers became more focused and powerful. That child was healed, and her testimony stands as a witness to the power of mental preparation. Another critical aspect of preparation is aligning your spirit with faith and expectancy. Prayer is not about passive wishing, it is about active believing. Before you pray, remind yourself, "I believe God hears me. I expect breakthrough." Doubt will kill the power of your prayer faster than any enemy. Hebrews 11:6 says, "Without faith it is impossible to please God." A story I love to share is about a man who had tried everything to get a job but kept facing rejection. When he decided to rise at 1 a.m. and pray with expectancy, something shifted. He prepared his heart to believe that God was already working behind the scenes. That faith filled his prayers with power, and within weeks he was hired at a job far better than he imagined. His breakthrough began not just in the prayer itself, but in preparing his heart to believe it was possible. Preparation also includes setting spiritual boundaries. The enemy will fight harder when he sees you determined to claim your breakthrough. Protect yourself by declaring in advance, "I refuse to be distracted. I refuse to give place to fear or doubt." Some believers find it helpful to declare scriptures aloud before they begin, like Ephesians 6:10-18, putting on the armor of God, mentally and spiritually before engaging in prayer. Let me be candid here. Preparing your heart and mind requires discipline. It is not easy to do this consistently, especially when tiredness wants to pull you back to sleep. But it is this very discipline that separates those who see results from those who remain stuck. Breakthrough belongs to those who prepare, who sacrifice, who refuse to give in to the excuses of fatigue or busyness. Imagine a great athlete preparing for a championship. They don't just show up on game day and expect to win without training. They condition their bodies, sharpen their minds, and focus their spirit. Prayer is no different. Your breakthrough at 1 a.m. will be the product of preparation that builds day by day, cleansing your heart, focusing your mind, strengthening your faith, and setting spiritual boundaries. One final note: be patient with yourself. Preparing your heart and mind is a process. Some nights will be easier than others. Sometimes your thoughts will wander or doubts will creep in. When that happens, gently bring your focus back to God. Remember, God is merciful and desires to meet you where you are. What matters is your willingness to prepare and persevere. In summary, preparing your heart and mind for 1 a.m. break through prayer is the foundation for receiving divine answers. It is about cleansing your heart from anything that blocks God's presence, quieting and focusing your mind, aligning your spirit with faith and expectancy, and setting spiritual boundaries to protect your time of prayer. When you do this, your prayers become weapons of power and your breakthrough becomes inevitable. Engaging in focused and intentional prayer at 1 a.m. when the clock strikes 1 a.m., this is the moment many overlook, the sacred hour that has been called the hour of breakthrough. But what exactly does it mean to pray intentionally and focused at this hour? This is where many stumble, thinking that simply waking up and saying a few words is enough. No breakthrough prayer demands far more. It requires purpose, passion, and power. First, let's talk about focus. In the silence of the night, distractions are fewer, but your mind can still wander. This is why your prayer must be intentional. Intentional prayer means knowing what you are asking for and why. It means lifting up specific petitions to God, not vague wishes. Think of prayer as a conversation with a loving Father who knows your needs intimately. When you pray at 1 a.m., don't just pray "God, help me," or "God, bless me." Speak with clarity. Declare your needs boldly. For example, if you need a job, pray specifically for God to open the right doors, to give favor in interviews, and to prepare your heart for the opportunity. There's a power in specificity. It shows faith and expectation. It moves prayer from a casual chat to a targeted spiritual battle. When a woman in Nigeria woke up every night at 1 a.m. to pray specifically for her son's salvation, she was not vague. She prayed for his heart to be softened, for divine encounters, and for protection from negative influences. Her prayers were answered, and her son became a devoted believer. Now, let's consider passion. Breakthrough prayers must come from a place of deep emotion, a place where your spirit is on fire with desire for change. The Bible is full of examples where desperate, passionate prayer moved mountains. Consider Hannah in 1 Samuel 1, who prayed with such intensity and tears for a child that God granted her request. When you pray at 1 a.m., let your heart pour out before God. Don't hold back tears, cries, or your deepest needs. That raw passion connects you to God's heart and ignites supernatural power. Don't forget to include worship and praise during your 1 a.m. prayer. Sometimes we come with so many requests that we forget the power of praising God in the midst of prayer. Praise shifts your atmosphere, lifts your spirit, and invites God's presence to move. Start your prayer with worship. Thank God for what He has already done. Praise is not just about gratitude. It is a spiritual weapon that breaks chains and ushers in breakthrough. Focus and passion also require persistence. Sometimes your breakthrough will not come instantly. There may be nights you feel like giving up, but remember the parable of the persistent widow in Luke 18, 1-8. She kept knocking until justice was served. You too must persist. Keep praying at 1 a.m., keep believing, and keep expecting. Persistence sharpens your faith and pushes the enemy back. A powerful tip: write down your prayers and revisit them daily. This keeps your mind focused and your spirit connected to your prayer goals. When you see your requests on paper, it makes your prayers more concrete and intentional. Remember, prayer at 1 a.m. is not a magic spell. It is a sacred communication powered by faith, focus, passion, and persistence. When you engage with God in this way, you align yourself with heaven's timing and power, walking in obedience and expectancy after the 1 a.m. prayer after the power. Packed 1 a.m. breakthrough prayer, many make a critical mistake. They pray and then wait passively for the miracle to happen. But true breakthrough demands more than prayer. It requires obedience and expectant action. You cannot pray for breakthrough and continue living as if nothing has changed. First, consider what obedience means in this context. Obedience is listening to what God reveals during your prayer time and acting on it immediately. Sometimes breakthrough comes as a whisper, a subtle prompting to change your attitude, reach out to someone, or take a new step in your career or relationship. Obedience means you do not ignore these spiritual nudges. When you hear God's voice, even faintly, obey at once. Take the story of Abraham in the Bible. God promised him a son, but Abraham had to wait many years. During this time, he remained obedient, living in faith, adjusting his plans and trusting God's timing. Breakthrough for you may not be immediate, but obedience during the waiting period prepares you for it. Expectancy is the other side of the coin. It is the confident anticipation that God will move on your behalf. When you pray at 1 a.m. and leave the place of prayer with doubt, you send mixed signals to the spiritual realm. Your faith must be unwavering. Expectancy keeps your spirit alive, your heart hopeful, and your actions aligned with God's promises. A powerful real-life example is that of a young woman who prayed every 1 a.m. for financial breakthrough. After weeks of prayer, she felt led to start a small online business. Instead of waiting passively for a miracle, she acted on the direction. Within months, her business grew beyond her expectations. She combined prayer with obedience and expectancy, and God's blessing followed. Obedience after prayer also means guarding your heart and mind from negativity. Don't listen to voices of doubt, fear, or discouragement from others or from your own thoughts. Instead, speak life into your situation. Use declarations and affirmations based on Scripture. For example, say aloud, "I am the head and not the tail. I am blessed in the city and blessed in the field." Deuteronomy 28:13. Furthermore, maintain a lifestyle that honors your breakthrough. If you pray for healing, follow the doctor's advice and take care of your body. If you pray for career advancement, prepare yourself with skills and good work ethics. Breakthrough demands that you partner with God through action. Finally, share your breakthrough testimony. When God moves in your life, tell others. Your testimony not only glorifies God, but also encourages others to believe and persevere in their own prayer journeys. Your breakthrough is a light that guides and inspires. To summarize, walking in obedience and expectancy after your 1 a.m. break through prayer means listening and acting on God's guidance, maintaining unwavering faith, guarding against negativity, preparing practically for your breakthrough, and sharing your testimony. This lifestyle transforms your prayers from momentary requests into lasting change. Now, you've been given the keys, the secret door that opens at 1 a.m. when the world sleeps but heaven moves. You've learned that breakthrough prayer is not just about waking up late at night. It's about how you pray with focus, passion, and persistence. It's about entering that sacred space with intentionality, engaging deeply with God, and expecting miracles. But most importantly, it's about what you do after you pray, walking in obedience, seizing every divine opportunity, and living with unwavering expectancy. Remember, breakthrough is not a one-time event. It's a journey, a spiritual battle where prayer becomes your weapon, faith your shield, and obedience your march forward. The breakthrough you desire is on its way, but it demands that you rise above doubt, fatigue, and fear. Tonight, when the clock hits 1 a.m., don't just wake up with purpose. Declare your needs clearly, pour out your heart passionately, stay persistent no matter how long it takes, and when you step out of prayer, walk boldly in faith and obedience. The breakthrough you are praying for is not just a dream, it's your destiny. God is waiting to move, but the question is, are you ready to meet him there? Will you answer the call to pray, believe, obey, and receive? I challenge you to take this moment seriously. Make your 1 a.m. prayer a lifestyle, not a ritual. Trust in the power that flows in that quiet hour and watch your life transform beyond what you can imagine. Now, go ahead, start that journey tonight. Your breakthrough is closer than you think.